All right, thank you. At this point, I will just ask if each side is ready for trial.
Before we proceed, I would like to go over a few pretrial matters.
At this point, I will just ask if each side is ready for trial. Well, why am I hearing myself again?
Your Honor, you were hearing yourself twice because when I start the live stream, are you still there?
I am.
Oh, here. All right. When I start the live stream, it has a few second delay, and you could hear it through my speaker. So I should have gone off now, and so you should be all set. Yep, and it is live streaming on here. So fantastic, we're up and running. The teams have all done their introductions, and I interrupted the judge, and I apologize. I will just announce to everybody that mock trial is now in session, and I will turn it back over to the judge.
Thank you, Mr. Aero. And counsel for Bermuda Grass, you were saying?
Yes, Your Honor. I would like to make sure that both you, the jurors, and opposing counsel have copies of the stipulated facts and evidence.
I do have those. I'll just ask the jurors if they have the copies of the exhibits and the stipulated facts.
Your Honor, I do.
So that was Mr. McAdams. Mr. Trevino, how about you?
I do, Judge.
And Ms. Yoshimura? And am I muted? No, I am good. All right, don't forget to unmute yourself. I didn't hear Ms. Yoshimura. And let me see if we still have Ms. Yoshimura on as a participant. I'm not seeing her. We may have lost her. I'm still seeing Ms. Yoshimura in one portion of my participants, but I don't see her over in the side window.
If it helps, Judge, I don't see her either.
That does help. I'm just not sure what to do at this point. I don't want to leave because then I'm gone. Let me see if I can reach out to Mr. Aero. All right, I've been informed that they just let Ms. Yoshimura back in to the courtroom. Ms. Yoshimura, can you hear me? Her name is showing up again. Go ahead and unmute yourself just to let me know you can hear me. And then also counsel for Bermuda Grass wanted to make sure that you had a copy of the exhibits and the stipulations. Oh, she says, I am here. It won't let me unmute. I do have a copy. Let me see if I can unmute you. I sure can't. They don't trust me to do that, apparently. All right. Well, Ms. Yoshimura is with us, and she does have a copy. So anything further from counsel from Bermuda Grass?
Yes, Your Honor, the defense would like to make sure that everyone in the court today would be allowed to look at their unaltered exhibit notebooks when entering exhibits into evidence in order to speed up the flow of the trial and to avoid the technical difficulties that may come along with screen sharing exhibits.
I think that is fine. Any objection from Switchgrass?
No objection.
All right, then that is fine. Anything further from Bermuda Grass?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
And you're prepared to proceed?
Yes.
All right, and then just so that I have it clear in front of me, Bermuda Grass, are you the plaintiff or the defendant?
We are the defendant.
All right, thank you. And then Switchgrass, are you prepared to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. I will remind the scores at this point to make sure that you keep in mind within your scores to think about who the best witness is and the best attorney, because you need to include that in your score sheet. Now, I don't think that there are any video recorders present, but I want to make sure if there's anybody that has any video recorders being used, that both teams have approved the taping of the round. Is anybody taping this other than the live stream? I'm going to take that as a no. All right. So to the teams and the gallery members, the Colorado Bar Association may be taking, if it says photographs, I'm guessing maybe screenshots or something during this competition. And that team participation in the state tournament grants automatic permission and the use of those photos by the Colorado Bar Association. If there's anybody that is logged in anywhere other than the, well, anybody that's in the gallery, if there's anybody in the gallery that's connected with teams, so that would be on the YouTube live stream. Anybody that's connected with the teams not competing in this round, please leave the courtroom. There are two exceptions to that rule. That's if you have a child or you're a team coach with a child, you can stay and watch that. Remind the teams that there are no recesses that will be allowed unless somebody has a medical emergency. Then I will certainly grant a recess for that. We've already discussed whether there's any conflicts with the scorers. Any disputes arising out of this competition must be reported in accordance with the competition rules. The time requirements will be considered in scoring individual performances. And now I will swear everybody in. That includes the team members and I guess the folks that are watching this via live stream, although I can't see you nor hear you. So, and I know you all are seated and typically you'd be standing to address the court, but I think to make sure that a record that we can hear you, you need to be close to your microphones. So go ahead and stand while I swear you in. Team members, please raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? And you can unmute yourself so that I can hear you respond if you would.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
I do.
I do. Yes, Your Honor. I do.
Good. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition.
I do.
I do.
I do.
And gallery members, I won't be able to hear you. However, this does include teacher and attorney coaches, family members, and friends. Please raise your right hands. Do you promise to represent yourselves as positive role models and to behave in a manner that exemplifies ethical and professional sportsmanship during and after this mock trial round? And I'm imagining a resounding chorus of I do's. Finally, scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Perfect. So without any further ado, we can proceed. I'll ask the plaintiffs if they wish to make an opening statement.
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed when you're ready.
Let me know the very words of Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer and the defendant in the case before you today. Ms. Doncourt claims that if there were a single email claiming Lush was aware of the potential carcinogenic dangers of Drufo, a component of their fertilizer, to let her know. Today, you will hear evidence proving that multiple people did let her know about the potential carcinogenic dangers of Drufo, and that Ms. Doncourt knew that by baking its fertilizers, the dangers of cancer could be prevented. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel, this case comes down to the life of Dakota Weirs, the plaintiff in this case. Today, you will hear that Dakota was always an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local homeless shelter, spent time serving meals, washing dishes, and being as involved as she could with the less fortunate members of her community. But above all, even as a small infant, Dakota loved the piano. Dakota thrived on the piano. So she started taking lessons and used every spare minute not devoted to school or community service studying piano theory. Piano became Dakota's life. And then she caught her big break with a full-ride scholarship to Juilliard. Fast forward to today. You will hear evidence that Dakota can barely stand. Rather than playing piano and going to one of the most prestigious performing art schools in the country, Dakota is forced to combat swollen lymph nodes and frequent chills and chest pains. Now she fears she will not be able to join Juilliard again or even play the piano at all. We are gathered here today to determine whether Lush Fertilizer is responsible for Dakota Weir's case of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, a form of cancer that is not genetic and is contracted from exposure to harmful chemicals. From age 14, Dakota worked with fertilizers, the most notable being Lush Fertilizer. Dakota was then diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Today, you will see evidence reflecting that there were no warnings on Lush Fertilizer's products regarding the risks of cancer. Dakota could not have known to protect herself from Lush Fertilizer. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you will be shown that Lush Fertilizer was negligent. Negligence refers to the defendant failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating a risk of harm to persons who might be expected to use the product in a manner the defendant might have reasonably expected. The defendant will tell you they had no knowledge of a duty to create warnings or adapt their products. Today, we will prove to you that the defendant was well aware. We will let them know. Dakota will testify today that Lush Fertilizer is responsible for her having non-Hodgkin lymphoma. She will tell you there were no warnings alerting her of a risk of cancer and that she used the defendant's product reasonably. You will also hear the testimony of Carson Durst, a former employee at Lush Fertilizer, who will tell you that she attempted to warn the company of the potential carcinogenic dangers of Drufo. You will then hear testimony of Dr. Casey Rogers, an expert witness who will show you she has studied the possibility of Drufo containing a carcinogen, and a test she conducted proving that there were higher incidences of non-Hodgkin lymphoma in those who used Drufo than those who did not. Today, the plaintiff has the burden of proof to prove by preponderance of evidence that the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, was negligent, and that the plaintiff should be compensated. To prove by preponderance of evidence means to prove something more likely than not. to prove by even by just 51%. Should the plaintiff prove that the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, was negligent in failing to provide ample warning and distributing a product that could be potentially harmful, then the plaintiff will have met its burden by a preponderance of evidence. Let me know. That is precisely what will happen today. The defendant was made aware of the potential risks of Drufo and its unbaked form on multiple occasions, but they still decided to prioritize their profits over the safety of consumers, including my client and the harm their fertilizer caused to her. At the end of this trial, we will ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to find in favor of the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, and that the defendant was liable on charges of negligence. Let them know Lush Fertilizer is responsible for Dakota Weir's damages. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Opening statement for the defense.
Yes, thank you. Lush isn't liable. The lawsuit at hand was started solely by a misguided attempt to hold the wrong people accountable due to the plaintiff's neglect to understand the nuance of the current case. Lush Fertilizer Incorporated is currently being accused of ignoring a known carcinogen, Drufo, in their products. First, you will hear from Dakota Weirs, the plaintiff, a 20-year-old currently struggling with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The plaintiff had been working at a landscaping company, Haven Landscaping, since they were 14. Due to their young age, they were unable to do anything other than spread seeds and fertilizer. There were safety regulations stating that they had to wear protective gear, such as long sleeve shirts, long pants, a facial covering, and gloves. However, the plaintiff will tell you that they refused to meet these standards. They will tell you that they just loved the feeling of the wind on their face and in their eyelashes, and they couldn't bear to stand the heat that came following basic safety protocol. After being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, they will tell you that they spent most of their time on the couch. During one of these couch-ridden episodes, they will tell you how they saw on the news a story of how Lush Fertilizer had leaked documents that claimed that they lied about the safety of their products. And they will tell you how after a minimal research, they found out that in France, Lush's products were banned. They will tell you that after this minimal research, they came to the conclusion that Lush was the reason they had non-Hodgkin lymphoma. While preparing for this litigation, they brought on Carson Durst. Carson Durst was an old employee of Lush Fertilizer, and she will tell you how she was frequently in charge of understanding the research that was happening on Drufo. She worked at Lush Fertilizer Incorporated from 2003 till 2006 when she was fired. She will tell you how she was best friends with the CEO's son, Charles Doncourt, and how because of this, she was hired right out of college. However, she will tell you that after constant abysmal performance reviews, she was fired. You will then hear from Dr. Casey Rogers, who will tell you about how Drufo piqued her interest as soon as it came on the market. She will tell you about the study she conducted and how, but she will neglect to tell you how she didn't publish it or have it peer reviewed, despite that being one of the most important parts in continuing the scientific method. She will tell you how allegedly in her study, it showed that there was a connection between Drufo and cancers, such as non-Hodgkin lymphoma. You will then hear from Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, who will tell you how she has been working since 2000 to build her company from a small, unknown producer of fertilizer to one in the commercial and yard industry. She will tell you how she has pushed for legislative change to benefit the environment and how she donates 10% of her company's annual profits to charities. She will tell you how she didn't know, and there were no state or federal laws stating that she had to put a reasonable warning on her products, on her company's products. She will tell you how when her company and the EPA did research, they found no valid scientific studies saying that there was a causal link between Drufo and cancer. Then you will hear from Skylar Weirs, the defendant's twin brother. Their own twin brother will tell you the purpose of Drufo and how it bonds to the grass, preventing runoff and pollution of the rest of the environment, and how it acts as a pesticide, which prevents other people from coming into things such as glyphosate and arsenic. You will then hear from Dr. Devin Williams, who explains the true statistics behind people contracting cancer after being exposed to Drufo. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is your job to find that Lush is not liable. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Garcia. The plaintiff may present their first witness.
Okay. Your Honor, our first witness is Ms. Dakota Weirs.
All right, and I have already pre-sworn all the witnesses, so you can proceed when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Please state your name and spell the last.
Dakota Weirs, W-E-R.
Tell us why you filed a claim against the defendant, Lush Fertilizer. Sorry, it seems like there's a glitch going on. I think I'll re-ask the question. Tell us why you filed a claim against the defendant, Lush Fertilizer.
I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and I believe caused what was Lush Fertilizer. Because of this, Lush has ruined my life and stolen my future. I want the company to pay for what they did.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. I'm sure it's difficult for you to be here. Let's take a step back into how this all started. Tell me about yourself. How old are you?
20 years old.
And where do you live?
Colorado.
Tell me about your family.
Your Honor, I'm having a difficult time hearing this examination.
I don't think you're the only one. We seem to have.
Yeah, I'm also having issues.
We have a tough connection, I believe, with Ms. Ward's connection, I think. So I don't know how to fix that, but maybe, and I hate to have you turn off your camera, Ms. Ward, but when I'm in court, in my regular docket, if I can't hear somebody correctly, I sometimes have them turn off their video and then I can hear them. I know that is an imperfect solution, because then the jury can't see you, and well, nobody can see you, and that's a problem. But a good audio is probably most important at this point. So maybe try, if we keep having that connection issue, maybe try turning off your camera and just going forward with audio.
Okay. Should I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Tell me about your family.
I'm close to my parents and was really close to my grandfather. I also have a twin sister, but we're not as close as I would like.
Let's talk about your life prior to your illness. What were you involved in during high school?
I'd always been an active member of my community. I volunteered with the local homeless shelter. I was a member of the National Honor Society and was president of my school's government. I worked very hard to get good grades and excel at various extracurriculars. Probably the worst part about my lymphoma is that I also love to play the piano.
How did you get started playing the piano?
When I was little, I tried to learn for fun on my grandfather's old piano, but after he
Objection
died,
relevant.
Was there an objection?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead and state the nature of your objection.
Relevance.
And that's to how she started learning to play piano?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Glenn, what's your response?
Okay. Your Honor, this question was asked to get a background on what Miss Weirs lost because of her illness, and get a background on what we'll be stating later.
And any response from the defense?
No response.
All right, I will overrule the objection and allow the answer to come in.
Okay, thank you. Where were we? Oh, how did you get started playing the piano?
when I was little, I tried to learn for fun on my grandfather's old piano, but after he died, I think I started to play to feel closer to him. He was a very accomplished pianist, and at the time, the time I spent at the piano, it reminded me of him. I started taking lessons and actually became quite good.
It sounds like piano became a big part of your life. How else did you continue your hobby?
I performed in recitals and won competitions. Piano was my life. I was offered scholarships and even awarded a full ride scholarship to Juilliard.
That's incredible. Did you end up going there?
I ended up having to turn it down.
Why did you have to turn it down?
Before I was supposed to leave for Juilliard, I started to feel sick all the time and had rapid weight loss. I often felt fatigued and had chest pains, chills, and enlarged lymph nodes. After going to the hospital, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. I have very little energy to be nearly as active and no longer have the strength to sit for long periods at the piano. And sitting at the bench often causes me to bruise. Even playing the shortest concerto is impossible, and I have been feeling depressed. I feel like I lost my grandfather for a second time. My life has been ruined. I feel I'll never be well enough to pursue a career as in concert piano. I am so scared. I have no idea what the future will hold, if I will cover or if I will continue to decline.
Why do you believe you got sick?
I believe that Lush fertilizer is responsible for my illness.
How did you come in
Objection,
contact?
speculation.
A response?
This information was offered to show what the plaintiff is trying to receive in compensation, and also to understand what we're trying to cover today.
Anything further from the defense?
Your Honor, this question specifically called for speculation.
It is a somewhat speculative statement. However, it's her entire claim. So while I will allow I'll overrule the objection.
Thank you. I guess I'll state the question. How did you come in contact with Lush fertilizer? Is Dakota Weirs there?
apologize, I forgot to unmute my mic. I loved being
Sorry,
outdoors
I'll
and I
say it
found
again. How did you come in contact with Lush Fertilizer?
I loved being outdoors and I found the perfect job. I started working at Haven Landscapings as a landscaping technician when I was 14 and worked there for several years.
How did you connect your use of Lush Fertilizer with having non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
One time when I was at home on the couch, I saw a news story about Lush Fertilizer and its main ingredient, Drufo. Someone leaked documents that showed the company lied about the safety of its products and knew Drufo could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma. I was shocked because I knew I used Lush Fertilizer.
Once you saw the news story, what did you do?
As soon as I saw the story, I immediately contacted my dad. I also reached out to my old job to warn them about the product and to see if they had any old packaging, just to make sure that Lush was the product I used. I remembered using Lush and have contacted my boss at Havens, and he sent a picture of the old label.
Can you please turn to Exhibit 1? Let the record reflect that the opposing counsel has a copy. Your Honor, do you have a copy?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Weirs, can you please tell the jury what Exhibit 1 is?
Exhibit 1 is a copy of the label that for Lush Fertilizer that I used while landscaping.
Does Exhibit 1 fairly and accurately resemble the Lush Fertilizer label as you remembered it from your time at Haven Landscaping?
Yes, this is exactly how I remember it.
Your Honor, at this time, I offer Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objection to Exhibit 1?
No, Your Honor.
Then Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Ms. Weirs, what information is on this label?
It shows ingredients, but nothing on here warns me that it could be a carcinogen. It also has some user safety recommendations.
Does the ingredient list include Drufo?
Yes, it does.
Did you follow the user safety recommendations?
I didn't really follow them. I was a high school student with very little experience and didn't think of the consequences of my actions. If I had known that it could cause cancer, though, I would have followed those recommendations much more closely.
Did anyone let you know that Lush could cause cancer?
No, there was nowhere on the packaging that said Lush could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Let's talk about more reasons that you think you could contact non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Is there any other reason why you think Lush Fertilizer caused your illness?
Since non-Hodgkin lymphoma is environmental and not genetic, I immediately thought about my twin sister, Skylar. We're not identical, but we basically participated in identical activities other than my landscaping job. Because non-Hodgkin is environmental, not genetic, and the only difference in our environments was my exposure to Drufo and my job, Skylar would likely have it too if something else in my life had caused my illness.
Skylar is a witness to the defense. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't believe that my own twin would stand against me.
Why do you think Skylar would take a stand against you?
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, this information is not offered for the truth of the matter, instead to show Skylar's mindset and bias.
Okay, any response from the defense?
Your Honor, this question clearly asks for speculation on the character of Skylar Lewis.
I'll allow the question. I'll overrule the objection as Ms. Weirs has indicated that she knows Skylar Weirs because they're twins. They've had similar life experiences, and I think the plaintiff has shown some foundation that could establish that if she knows of any potential bias or reason that Ms. Weirs Skylar Weirs would have to testify against her, I think that it's not necessarily speculation. So I will overrule the objection that it's speculative. And you can answer the question.
Great, thank you. Why do you think Skylar would take a stand against you?
Skylar and I were never particularly close. Now Skylar works as a freelance writer and a server at a restaurant. Skylar is a really talented writer and has written excessively on the safety of Drufo. Skylar has a series in scientific magazines. However, Skylar has also written all sorts of articles about UFOs, flat earth theory, chemtrails, and anti-vax culture. Skylar will write anything for the right price.
How is your relationship with Skylar?
It's not as close as I would like. Skylar often told me I was ruining the family legacy and that there would be no money left in the state after our dad passes. With our long-standing rivalry, I don't think the court would believe a word she says.
I'm sorry to hear about this. Let's circle back. What are you asking the jury to do today?
I want Lush to be held accountable for my lifelong illness.
How much monetary compensation specifically are you asking for?
While no amount of money will ever make up for the pain that this has caused me, we are asking for $10 million.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Miss Dakota Weirs, you worked for Haven Landscaping.
Yes.
You worked with Lush Fertilizer at Haven Landscaping
Yes.
and other fertilizers.
Yeah, a few.
You're only suing Lush?
Yes.
A successful company?
Can you repeat the question?
A successful company?
Yes.
A wealthy company?
Their wealth has nothing to do with it.
But you're getting $10 million if you win this case.
Yes.
Objection relevant.
Response, Ms. Gingras.
Your Honor, she previously stated that she was getting $10 million for this. Also, it's relevant because suing a company like this, she should have a reason.
Any response from the plaintiff?
I don't see how having the plaintiff, the main witness, describing the wealth of the company is relevant to what she's asking for.
Okay. I'll overrule the objection as it's relevant as it may go towards some kind of motive. The objection's overruled. You can answer the question, Ms. Weirs. And if Ms. Gingras needs to repeat the question, that can
Can
certainly.
you repeat the question?
A company you will get $10 million from if you win this case.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Weirs, I would like to talk to you about your time with Haven as you worked with them.
Okay.
You worked outside.
Yes. For the most
You
part.
enjoyed working outside.
Yes, except for when it was unreasonably hot out.
You enjoyed feeling the wind on your bare face while working outside.
Yes.
Your boss always told you to cover your face while working with fertilizer.
Yes.
And you ignored these rules.
Yes, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions.
You were supposed to always wear protective gear when working with these fertilizers.
Yes.
Gloves.
Yes.
Full coverage clothing.
Yes.
An N95 mask or respirator to protect your face.
Yes.
You didn't wear those items.
No, I didn't think about it at the time.
You wore only a t-shirt on the job
Yes.
and shorts,
Yes.
leaving most of your body entirely unprotected.
Yes.
I would like for the opposing counsel to direct their attention to their evidence packets, particularly Exhibit 1. Ms. Weirs, I ask for you to direct your attention to Exhibit 1 as well. May I ask that the opposing counsel and Ms. Weirs direct their attention to the left portion of exhibit titled Hazards in all caps. This exhibit clearly states as follows: caution in all caps, causes eye irritation, avoid contact with eyes of clothing. I ask that the opposing counsel now direct their attention further down the page where one may find the user safety recommendations. This exhibit has clearly labeled its user safety recommendations, again in all caps. Allow for me to read this aloud. User safety recommendations. As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator or N95 face mask is recommended. Now, I must at last ask the opposing counsel to direct their attention to the last sentence of Exhibit 1 as I read it aloud. Users should wash their hands before and after use of this product. Ms. Weirs, it was required by your employers that you should always protect yourself while working with these fertilizers.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Weirs, no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Gingras. I'll ask if the plaintiff has any redirect.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, how old were you when you worked for the landscaping company?
I started when I was 14.
Did you know that you could get cancer from using chemicals or fertilizers?
No, it listed it nowhere on the packaging.
I'd like to call attention to Exhibit 1 again. Could you read what's written underneath the words caution?
Causes eye irritation, avoid contact with eyes and clothing.
Okay, sorry, there was a glitch. Is there any...
Can you repeat that, Ms. Glenn? I didn't hear you. I can see you talking, but I hear no noise. Still can't hear anything.
All right, Ms. Glenn, I can see yourself. I see that you're unmuting yourself and muting again, but we're not getting any sound. I'm not sure what happened. Try turning off your camera to see if that will make it so that we can hear you.
Your Honor, my eye suggests a solution.
I would love to have a solution.
I can give my co-counsel my computer since I have okay internet and she can finish her examination or redirect on my computer, if that's okay.
That's Are you're close to her then? In proximity?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to run your computer to her, that should hopefully work.
Okay, she'll be right back.
Your Honor, should the time be running?
Yes, I think it probably should be running.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Okay, I am here now.
So Ms. Glenn, make sure your computer's off if you're using the different one, okay?
Okay, I'm back on track. All right. Okay, I'll start again. I think I covered how old she was. All right, could you read what is written underneath the word caution on the Exhibit 1?
Covered that as well.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Just for the
Cautions.
sake of time,
Thank you.
for the sake of time, she's read what is after caution. So let's try moving to your next question after that.
Okay. Is there anywhere on this label that would suggest the consequences of not undergoing the user safety recommendations could be anything more than eye irritation?
No, nowhere does it mention that.
Thank you. Is there anywhere on the label that has the word cancer or lymphoma?
No, nowhere on the label.
Did your boss ever tell you that this fertilizer could cause cancer?
No, no one ever told me.
Did anyone let you know that the consequences of foregoing the recommendations would go so far as cancer?
No, I had no clue that it could get this far.
And underneath could you read out the words underneath user safety recommendation?
As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator and N95 mask is recommended. To follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and maintaining personal protective equipment.
And does anywhere on the label state the word regulation rather than recommendation?
No.
So if someone told you that you were to follow a recommendation, would you follow it rather than starting to follow a regulation?
I would think about, if it was a recommendation, I wouldn't necessarily follow it depending on what it is.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. Ms. Gingras, any recross?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Dakota Weirs may step down and the plaintiffs can call their next witness.
Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Carson to the podium. Your Honor, due to the technical difficulties that we have experienced during this time, is it possible that we may be permitted to reobtain the time we lost due to those technical difficulties?
Let's just keep moving. If it becomes an issue, we'll address it down the road.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, are you there? Ms. Durst, please respond if you are there.
Ms. Durst, maybe if you haven't done so already, try turning off your video and seeing if we can, if that helps it so that we can at least hear you.
Your Honor, may I ask if the time is still running?
So I think time has to keep running. I appreciate that there's technical difficulties, but I'll tell you what I tell somebody that's appearing in my courtroom. This is the time we have set aside. I can't stretch it out because it affects everything down the road. So I don't have an unlimited amount of time. So the time is continuing to run. If I start giving you a lot of time, it screws up the next round. With attorneys that appear in my courtroom, you're seeing firsthand why I don't allow hearings, evidentiary hearings, to take place via WebEx, which is what we use, or Zoom, because this happens. And there's nothing a court can do about it other than say, sorry, I just can't stop time. I don't know, Ms. Casper, can you hear me?
Yes, I am using attorney Ariana Valdez's computer.
All right, and then make sure that you mute your computer so we don't get the echo.
Yes.
All right, counsel, it sounds like maybe we have, let's see, Ms. Durst ready to testify.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. Please state your name, spelling the last of the record.
Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
Can you please tell us your educational background?
Your Honor, I'm so sorry, but I cannot hear the opposing counsel.
Well, you can't hear counsel, is that what you said?
Yes, it's glitching out. It's very difficult to understand.
Opposing counsel, can you hear me?
Could you repeat that, please?
Ms. Rodriguez, why don't you try turning off your camera as well? That seems to help with the audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Durst, what did you do when you graduated?
I do want to let you know I have now switched to Dakota Weir's computer.
Okay, thank you.
I studied at Arizona State University and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering.
What did you do when you graduated?
I hadn't found a job. I talked to Charles and he told me to apply at Lush and that his dad could pull some strings for me. Sure enough, I was hired as an intern on the research and development team.
What was your biggest assignment at Lush?
I worked on the development of Drufo, a patented bonding agent to keep fertilizer products preserved and intact. The work had begun in 2001, and when I joined in 2003, they were working on testing its safety. I was tasked with researching one of the chemical compounds that comprised Drufo.
What did you discover in your research about Drufo?
I discovered an England study which concluded that the particular chemical compound may be carcinogenic in rats.
What did you do with that information?
I documented that study in my lab notebook on June 10, 2003. Keeping a lab notebook was one of the most important tasks that the product development engineers had during the in-house
Objection,
study.
narrative.
A response?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't quite hear that. Could you please repeat?
The objection was to a narrative response.
I'm sorry, did you hear me?
No, I couldn't hear you. Is this Ms. Rodriguez speaking?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I couldn't hear. I'm just looking for a response to the objection to a narrative response.
Your Honor, given the time constraints, would it be all right if we just withdrew the question and moved on?
Sure.
Ms. Durst, will you please direct your attention to Exhibit 3?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that opposing counsel has a copy of Exhibit 3. Your Honor, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Durst, what is Exhibit 3?
It's an excerpt from the England study.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the excerpt?
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I would like to admit Exhibit 3 as evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 3 is admitted.
Ms. Durst, could you please describe the contents of Exhibit 3?
It tested whether Drufo or C3N09P could increase cancer effects in rats.
What did it conclude?
It concluded that the potential for cardiogenicity in rats who had been exposed to C3N09P was increased.
You previously mentioned that you included this study in your lab notebook. Are your lab notebooks reviewed in any way?
Yes, my former boss, product manager Jerry Langley, typically reviewed them. It was a normal habit of fertilizer.
What would your project manager do with your reports?
Once everyone's analyses were reviewed, Jerry compiled our findings into a single report that went to senior management. This was typical based on the regular process within Lush.
What happened after you submitted your lab notebook to Jerry Langley for review?
A few months later, in September, right after I was promoted to product development engineer, Lush announced it was doing another in-house study.
What did this study test?
Whether Drufo was potentially carcinogenic in humans.
Could you please direct your attention to Exhibit 4? Let the record reflect that opposing counsel has a copy of Exhibit 4. Your Honor, do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Durst, would you please explain what Exhibit 4 is?
It's an email from Jerry Langley regarding the September study. It was sent to me, Blake Doncourt, and others on September 18, 2003.
Do you recognize this email? And does this email seem like a typical email you would receive from Jerry Langley?
Yes, and it looks normal from what we would receive from Jerry Langley.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Exhibit 4 as evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 4 is admitted into evidence.
Ms. Durst, will you please explain the contents of this email? Ms. Durst, will you please explain the contents of this email?
Yes. Once everyone's analysis were reviewed, excuse me, Jerry explained how certain expectations had not been established before regarding the study as conclusive. And it also stated the slush would be reopening.
Does this study mention potential carcinogenic qualities in samples?
Yes, it does.
Does this email list Blake Doncourt as a recipient?
Yes.
How did you present your discoveries from the study described in the email?
In December of 2003, we discussed our findings. Everyone presented their component of analysis as Jerry and upper echelon member Alex Monroe listened.
What results did your colleagues discover from the study?
One scientist expressed concern that not only may Drufo contain carcinogen, but that her analysis found it was perhaps linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Did you receive a study report?
Yes, a month or so later.
And what did it say?
They were not legally required to include a warning for cancer.
Did the report include any recommendations to make Drufo safer?
Yes, it recommended baking Drufo as part of the production process.
And did Lush decide to bake Drufo?
No, it did not.
When did things start to go wrong for you at Lush?
Shortly after that report.
And where did you go after you were fired from Lush Fertilizer?
I went to work at Tara's Greenery.
Ms. Durst, why did you agree to testify here today?
I agreed to testify because I believe that Drufo in its own base form can cause cancer, and I also believe that Lush knew about it and did nothing, chose to do nothing.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. No further questions.
All right, thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. You were hired by Lush Fertilizer in 2003
Yes.
as an intern
Yes.
in the research and development team.
Could you repeat that question, please?
In the research and development team.
Yes.
Your boss was Blake Doncourt.
He was the CEO, and Jerry Langley was my boss.
And Blake Doncourt was a close family friend.
Yes, at the time.
In your own words, he pulled some strings.
Yes.
And because of his actions, you got your job.
Yes.
You quickly
I was
rose
first
in the
hired
ranks.
as an intern.
All right. You quickly rose in
Yes.
the ranks of Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
And many of your colleagues gossiped that you were unqualified.
I wouldn't say gossip, but they did discuss it.
All right. You were tasked with researching one of the compounds containing Drufo.
Yes.
One of them.
Yes, one of them.
You were sent an email about Lush Fertilizer's in-house study,
Yes.
and it was unclear to you.
Yes.
You received the study report a few months later,
Correct.
and its conclusion was that Lush's statistics and distribution is below what is required by law.
Yes, it did state that.
Non-Hodgkin lymphoma was not addressed anywhere in the report.
It was not addressed in the report.
Your performance reviews began to decrease in quality.
Yes.
And then you went to talk to Blake Doncourt about the gossip.
Yes. But it was more about my problems with Jerry.
All right. He told you that you were lucky to even have a job.
Yes.
And you believed that Blake Doncourt should have given you a different reaction
Yes.
because he was your longtime family friend.
Not necessarily. I was just looking for help. I didn't know how to console Jerry about my decreasing reports.
All right. So you became angry with Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
And Blake Doncourt.
Yes, but I was more disheartened.
Sure. So you looked into Tara's Greenery.
I started applying for jobs, and yes, that included Tara's Greenery.
And this was a direct competitor to Lush Fertilizer.
Indeed so.
And you signed a non-compete agreement.
I do not remember signing it, but yes, I did.
You do not. I would ask for opposing counsel and the court to turn to Exhibit 5 in the document packet. Ms. Durst, would you mind turning to the second page of this?
I am on the second page.
Wonderful. So under the heading non-competing party, this is your signature, is it not?
That is my signature.
All right. So moving on, you applied for an open position at Tara's Greenery
Yes.
while still working for Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
You were fired from Lush in December of 2006
Yes.
and were already hired by Tara's Greenery.
Yes, I had already been hired.
Violating your confidentiality agreement with Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
Ms. Durst, you believe that Tara's Greenery, your current employer, may overtake Lush Fertilizer, your former employer, as having the best-selling fertilizer on the market.
Yes. I do believe
No
that.
further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Weidman. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Durst, after leaving Lush Fertilizer, why did you choose to work at Tara's Greenery?
I decided to stay in the field of fertilizers, which was what I was familiar with.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. No further questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Anything further, Ms. Weideman?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Durst may step down. The petitioners the plaintiffs rather, may call their next witness. Okay, nobody has unmuted themselves, so we're not hearing anything.
Switchgrass is out of time.
All right. And I can see somebody on Switchgrass. I see their mouth moving. I think that is Ms. Valdez. The screen's really small. I can't hear you, Ms. Valdez. I know I still can't hear you. I don't know if you folks know how to call in. I think there's a way to do that on Zoom. I know there is on the format I'm more used to. I just don't know what the phone number is. So if you folks know, I don't know, maybe a phone connection would work better for you, but I can't hear you.
Your Honor, I'm using my co-counsel Sophia's computer. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Perfect. On average, we spent about 5 minutes figuring out technical difficulties. That inconvenience was not planned for my team, nor I, nor you. And I really sincerely apologize. All I ask is maybe possibly, if permitted from you or co-counsel, 5 minutes to direct Dr. Casey Rogers, as she plays a huge role into this case.
Okay. Opposing counsel from Bermuda Grass, any objection to giving the Switchgrass time to do a quick direct on Dr. Roger so that you can actually cross-examine Dr. Roger? Because if I don't allow them to call Dr. Roger as a witness, you don't get to cross-examine him. Is there anybody from opposing counsel?
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, was that Ms. Garcia? I couldn't hear you, Ms. Garcia.
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, let's do a quick direct. Let's keep it quick on the plaintiff's side, and the scorers can just kind of decide if they want any of these technical difficulties to weigh against anybody, or if not, it's completely up to the scorers. So Ms. Valdez, go ahead and call your next witness, Dr. Casey Roger.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand. Hello, Dr. Rogers. Can you please state your full name, spelling out your last record?
Dr. Casey Rogers, Rogers.
And Dr. Casey Rogers are here to as an next witness on behalf of the plaintiff, Dakota Leaders, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Can you please start telling your education background?
Yes. I earned my Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture and Entomology from Colorado State University. I then earned my PhD in Agriculture and Entomology from UC Berkeley.
Awesome. Can you please tell me about your experience relevant in this case?
Well, hold on just a second. Ms. Valdez, I'm going to have you turn off the camera because your audio is coming across real spotty. I don't know if if the witness can hear you, but we're having a difficult time. And then while you're doing that, hold on just 1 second. I'll just go ahead and let everybody know that the mock trial rules have been reviewed. Technical difficulties fall into the category that would stop the clock to allow them to address them. I also have the authority to call a recess of up to 15 minutes. So I guess I do have a little bit of time to play with. So the time, when I said originally it would keep running, I could have stopped it. So we're going to go ahead and let the plaintiffs question this witness, and you can kind of disregard my admonishment to hurry up, because with that 15-minute wiggle room. We've got time.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. Allow me to repeat the question. Dr. Rogers, can you please tell the jury about your experience relevant to the issues in this case?
Yes, I'm currently employed in the Horticulture and Entomology Department at UC Berkeley. Previous to earning my PhD, I worked in large multinational chemical companies. I completed extensive research on potentially harmful effects that prolonged exposure to chemicals have on the body. My research has been used in litigation and in front of administrative advisory boards, but this is the first time I've ever testified as an expert witness at trial.
Dr. Rogers, has any of your research been published?
Yes, I have published six research studies, 4 of which are related to Drufo. Of those 4 Drufo-related studies, 2 or more are relevant to this case. In 2017, my study on Drufo toxicity and carcinogenicity was published in Biotechnology Information. And then in 2019, my study, The Evidence of Human Exposure to Drufo, a review environmentalist.
Dr. Rogers, your audio is now coming across kind of spotty. So I'm going to ask you to turn your camera off. That should help the audio.
It won't turn off.
So down at the very bottom, there should be a come on, you're like 30 years younger than I am. You should know this better than I do.
Like I keep clicking it, nothing happens.
Well, just keep trying it. Just know that we're having a hard time hearing you, but let's keep it moving. I can't figure out why you don't have the ability to turn off your camera.
Dr. Rogers, can you please turn to Exhibits 6 and 7 in front of you? Your Honor, let the record reflect that opposing counsel does have a copy. Do you have a copy?
I do.
Perfect. Dr. Rogers, are you familiar with these exhibits?
Yes.
Can you please identify what each of these exhibits are?
Yes. Exhibit 6 is my curriculum vitae, and Exhibit 7 is a list of my research publications.
Perfect. Are these exhibits accurate representations of your curriculum vitae and research publications?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I offer Exhibits 6 and 7 for admission into evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor, but I would like to ask how much time we have on the clock.
That's a good question. I think that because I didn't stop the clock, it's hard to determine how much time we have left. How much time do y'all get per witness? Is it 5?
Roughly 7 minutes, Your Honor.
Do the timekeepers, is it just no time left on according to you, to your clocks?
We have only a couple seconds left.
Was that Ms. Adair or was that Ms. Shoes?
Ms. Hughes.
And Ms. Adair, do you agree?
Yes, I only have a few seconds left as well, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to put 4 minutes back on the clock. That's what the plaintiffs have left to direct Dr. Roger. And does that time include the cross-examination, or is that separate?
It includes it.
All right, then let's make it 6 minutes.
Wait, no, it does not include the cross-examination.
All All right, thank you. Then we have, the plaintiffs have 4 minutes left on Dr. Roger.
Thank you. After no objections, Your Honor, at this time, I also offer Dr. Rogers as an expert in environmental chemistry and toxicity, in drufotoxicity, and carcinogenicity, based on her stated knowledge, skill, experience, training, and education.
Any objections from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, then Dr. Rogers is thus qualified.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, why did you begin researching Drufo? Dr. Rogers, why did you begin researching Drufo?
Historically, I've always been concerned about management, but my attention when it first came to market. I argued that drugs may be carcinogenic in rats. I decided to conduct my own study on those to see if there are any adverse health effects in persons with drugs.
Dr. Rogers, can you please tell the jury a little bit about the study you conducted on Drufo?
My study included 2 groups of people. 1, a group of people who had never been exposed to Drufo. 2, a group of people with occasional exposure to Drufo. And 3, a group of people who were exposed to Drufo on a regular, almost daily basis.
Dr. Rogers, based off your study that you conducted on the rats, can non-Hodgkin lymphoma be cured?
Can you repeat the question?
Can non-Hodgkin lymphoma be cured?
No, like many cancers, it would be controlled.
And how is non-Hodgkin lymphoma typically caused?
Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is not genetic and is usually caused by an exposure to an environmental condition, such as pesticides.
Based off your expertise and your knowledge to the plaintiff Dakota Weirs' medical records, what is your expert opinion on how Mrs. Weirs developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Based on my expertise, research, and studies, my opinion is that there is a high degree of medical probability that Ms. Weirs developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma due to her prolonged exposure to Drufo. The mechanism by which this likely occurred was a collection of lymph-containing cells damaged by exposure to Drufo or foreign particles from Drufo that entered Ms. Weir's tissue and diffused through and into the space between her skin and lung tissue. As those damaged cells and particles accumulated in the lymph nodes, their concentration could have overwhelmed immune function in the lymphocyte cells, resulting in metastasizing cancerous masses. From there, lymphoma of any form is nearly inevitable.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. There are no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. Cross-examination from the defense.
Yes, Honor. Dr. Rogers, you're up, Doctor?
Are you still with us, Dr. Roger?
Yes.
All right. I don't think that, could you hear the question from defense counsel?
No.
All right. I'll just have her
Okay.
re-ask.
Dr. Rogers, you're a professor,
Yes.
and you've also been studying the effects chemicals have on the body.
Can you repeat the question?
You've been studying the effects chemicals have on the body,
Yes.
specifically the harmful effects.
Can you repeat that?
Specifically the harmful effects of these chemicals.
Yes.
And you've published many articles.
Correct.
About this research.
Yes.
And your research has been used in litigation before,
Yes.
but this is your first time testifying as an expert witness.
It is my first time. Yes.
And you hope it won't be your last.
I would say that.
So Drufo got your attention as soon as it came on the market.
Yes.
So you put together a study.
Yes.
And this study lasted years.
Correct.
But you never provided us with this study.
No.
And you tried to mitigate exposure to Drufo.
Can you repeat that?
You tried to mitigate exposure to Drufo in this study.
Yes, I did.
But it was inconclusive.
Correct.
And you studied Dakota's case.
Correct.
Dakota's exposure to Drufo.
That was included. Yes.
It was similar to the people in your study.
The people with prolonged exposure. Yes.
The study that you just said was inconclusive.
Yes, but the only part of the study that was inclusive was when I was studying ways to mitigate and prevent exposure.
And you would, no further questions, Your Honor.
And thank you, Ms. Garcia. Is there any redirect for Dr. Roger? We saw Ms. Valdez. You still with me, Ms. Valdez? Can y'all still hear me? Ms. Garcia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Your Honor.
All right. And Dr. Roger, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. And then that just leaves Ms. Valdez. Ms. Valdez, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
There we are. You have any redirect for Dr. Roger?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, just to be clear, you do not work for any of the Lush or fertilizer companies, correct?
Correct.
And you've completed your studies in litigation to provide the correct information to help prevent the exposure to Drufo, correct?
Correct.
So you did everything that you were supposed to do.
Yes.
Objection
No further
leading.
questions, Your Honor.
Sounds like there was an objection. I didn't quite catch it.
Objection leading question.
Response.
Your Honor, my witness leads to answer the question.
That was a leading question. You are doing direct, so the objection is sustained. Ms. Garcia, do you have any recross?
No recross, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Roger. And I think that concludes the plaintiff's case. Does the plaintiff have any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right, folks, we're going to take I'm going to take a 5-minute recess just in case anybody needs to take a break. But also more importantly, just to see if Switchgrass can maybe, I don't know if you all are on the same router or using all the same Wi-Fi and it's just, using up too much bandwidth so that you can maybe consolidate down to a couple of computers. I'm also going to reach out to our host, who I think the host is listening in, to see if there's a way that if we continue having these issues that folks can call in on the phone, because I don't know how to do that. So it is 2:42 on my clock. We're going to take it. Actually, it just turned 2:43. We're going to take a recess to 2:48 to try and give Switchgrass some time to figure out their connection issues. Okay. All right, Mr. Aero. Hey,
Yes,
we're just having some connection issues. Is there a way that these kids can call in?
There's phone numbers that they can call. When they try to enter it, it should give them an audio option. And if they do not want to hook up through the computer audio, it should give them a phone number to dial into. That'll come up onto the waiting room just the same, and I could admit phone numbers. We'll just need to have them verify when they come on who they are.
Okay. And I don't know what the setup is. I don't know if they have, like a coach or somebody that's there with them that can maybe help with these connection issues. I'm at a loss. I am completely worthless to try and help other than saying maybe calling in. I feel bad. I mean, obviously the connection is better when they turn off their camera, but I feel bad that they're having to do this without their camera on.
Yes, but unfortunately, if the connection, if they're not able to call in, there's not a way to get audio. I think I heard you make a statement earlier that the distinction between audio and video, it is much more important to have the audio connection so that they can proceed. And if that ends up being the case, then that's probably the appropriate course to go.
Okay.
Your Honor, Mr. Aero, this is Tom Martin, attorney coach for Bermuda Grass. I overheard the court asking if an attorney coach was present. I was just in the room.
Yes, I was. Unfortunately, Tom, I don't think you can help Switchgrass with their connection issues. I was wondering if their coach, if they had somebody there. I'm guessing they do, and hopefully that person is helping them resolve some of these connection issues. I know it's frustrating for everybody.
Sorry to intrude. I just heard you ask for the attorney coach, and I wanted to see if I was needed. Thankfully, I'm not.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Well, I'm actually going to utilize the rest of my recess, so I will be back at 2:48.
coming to mind mostly, so that
Your Honor, can you hear me?
he went out.
Oh, did he?
He won't be able to hear you. You stepped off the bench
Okay.
briefly, but he'll be back.
We're trying to consolidate to just 2 computers. So yeah, we are trying to work on it. I'm so sorry for all the problems.
No worries. You know, it's even though we've been doing Zoom for about 1.5 years, I am amazed that we don't have more technical problems every time we use it. So totally understand.
Yeah, we're all trying. Thank you so much for your help.
Absolutely.
Witnesses should be in one room.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many questions did you ask?
For your audio. Mine was working and
Your Honor, we're trying to log in through a different computer, but it's saying it needs somebody to let us in.
Oh,
Is that something you can do?
no, but the host, I think, is listening in. The host should be able to do that.
Is that it only says Samantha. So since it didn't
Yeah, Samantha
identify.
Walsh is.
Okay, I can
Yeah, so
I
Samantha's
can
one
let
of
him
our
in
coaches.
if you can.
Yes, we're hoping that maybe a better computer might help.
Okay.
Well, you're coming through fantastically.
Okay, well maybe we can use this one too. Let's try that. All right, thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, it might help. All right, so I am back on and ready to go. I'm not sure if Switchgrass is completely up and ready to go, but didn't want you waiting on me. So I'm just gonna keep my camera and mic on, and then once everybody's ready, just let me know. Is Bermuda Grass still with us?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm here.
All right. And then how we looking, Switchgrass?
Your Honor, my co-counsels and I will be using the same computer and just doing the little rotation so we can be able to get through.
All right, well, this connection seems to be pretty good. I can see you and hear you pretty well.
Yes, thank goodness.
All right.
We are ready to proceed.
Very good. So the plaintiff has rested. Is the defense ready to present their case?
Yes, the defense calls Blake Doncourt to the stand.
All right, you may begin your direct when you're ready.
Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
And Ms. Doncourt, why are you here today?
Well, I'm here to testify on the behalf of my company and refute the plaintiff's accusations.
All right, Ms. Doncourt, what do you do for a living?
I'm the CEO of Lush Fertilizer.
And would you consider Lush Fertilizer particularly successful?
Yes, I would.
Do you measure your company's success solely by profit?
No, I do not. I also, we advocate for state and national legislation on to educate for certain environmental issues, and we even started our own charity to focus on cleaning some of the world's most polluted parts of the ocean. And with our success,
relevance.
Okay, there's been an objection to relevance. Any response?
Your Honor, this goes to show the ethics behind my client, and it goes to her character.
Anything further from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection as to relevance.
Can you talk about the claims that are being made about your company?
yes, my company is being accused of, or being wrongfully accused of negligence on the behalf of our product, Lush Fertilizer.
Can you explain further?
Yes, we are being accused of ignoring an alleged carcinogen.
And what is this alleged carcinogen?
As you know, Drufo, it's the bonding agent in our fertilizer.
And did you ignore this alleged carcinogen?
No, my company would never ignore something that could cause harm to people.
And did Lush Fertilizer do any research on Drufo?
Yes, Dr. Devin Williams and my research and development team have done extensive and thorough research on the effects of Drufo, and we would never have her cause harm to.
Besides your research and development team, have any other organizations found Drufo to be harmful?
Not in my knowledge, no. Neither my scientists nor the EPA found anything.
And if there was data, what would you have done about it?
Well, if there was anything found about our products being possibly dangerous, we would have either not released it on the market or put warnings on them immediately.
And are you familiar with Carson Durst on the plaintiff's side?
Yes, I am.
What is your relationship with Ms. Durst?
Well, I hired him back in 2003 to work for me at Lush Fertilizer.
I'd like to draw your attention and opposing counsel's attention to your exhibit packet, specifically Exhibit 4. Do you have Exhibit 4? Do you recognize Exhibit 4 at all, Ms. Doncourt?
No, I do not.
And what is this exhibit?
Well, it appears to be an email.
Do you remember ever getting this email?
No, I do not.
Well, do you get many emails a day?
Yes, I do. Being the head of a company, I get hundreds of emails a day. So I have to sort of wade through them and see which ones are important and not. So I think I definitely would have remembered this one.
Why do you think you would have remembered this email in particular, Ms. Doncourt?
Well, if you direct your attention to the top, it says importance is high and that sensitivity is confidential. So I believe it would not have gone over my head.
So what do you think about the legitimacy of this email?
I think it's fake.
So why do you think it's fake?
Also, because the plaintiff lawyers searched our email systems and found nothing of this sort of email.
You're the CEO of your company. Do you understand the preparation process for Drufo?
Of course I do. I oversee all things within my company.
So does Lush Fertilizer bake their Drufo?
No, we do not.
Why not?
We don't bake our Drufo because the cost of baking it is just unnecessary and because we found no risk in the first place. We thought it would just be extraneous.
So would you say profit is the reason you decided not to bake Drufo?
It definitely had some influence on my decision. However, it was not the sole reason that we didn't bake our Drufo.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Sorry, I don't think my space bar is working anymore to unmute me. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed when you're ready.
Ms. Doncourt, you are the Chief Executive Officer or CEO at Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you founded Lush Fertilizer as well?
Yes.
And you started the company in the year 2000 and continue to work there to this day?
Yes.
Your company produces yard and commercial fertilizers, correct?
We do.
Lush also created Drufo, a chemical found in your fertilizers?
Yes, we did.
Is Drufo a bonding agent in your fertilizer?
Correct.
Are you aware that Dakota Weirs has non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
I am aware.
Are you also aware that non-Hodgkin lymphoma is not genetic, so you assume that Ms. Weirs was exposed to some harmful environment?
Yes, I'm aware.
Others, including Dakota Weirs and Dakota's expert, Casey Rogers, have asserted Drufo is linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Are you aware of this?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question. I believe there was an objection.
Was there an objection from opposing counsel?
I didn't hear an objection.
Yeah, I tried to object to a previous question of opposing counsel, a compound question.
Could you please state which question that was?
I think it was the one about Drufo being out of environment and not genetics. Can you re-ask that question, perhaps?
Was the question you were referring to, are you also aware that non-Hodgkin lymphoma is not genetic?
No, I guess not.
All right, well, the witness did answer that question. It sounds like the way it was worded that way anyway wasn't compound. So let's proceed with cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Doncourt, you claim that Lush Fertilizer conducted extensive research and testing on Drufo before putting it on the market for sale, correct?
Yes, we did.
And you claim that such extensive research and testing did not identify non-Hodgkin lymphoma to persons coming into contact with your fertilizer?
Yes.
There are no warning signs on any of your products with regards to cancer, are there, Ms. Doncourt?
Not with regards to cancer specifically.
You claim there are no warning signs related to cancer because your extensive research and testing show that there were little to no risks to person using your fertilizer. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
You claim that your research and development team found nothing in Lush Fertilizer that would require a warning?
Yes.
If there were known risks from Lush products, would you put warning labels on the packaging?
Yes, we definitely would. My company and I are avowed environmentalists.
In fact, if there was a significant verifiable risk that Drufo could be carcinogenic, you wouldn't have allowed your company to put it on the market, would you?
I would not allow my company to put it on the market.
Ms. Doncourt, can you please look at Exhibit 4 in front of you, which has already been admitted into evidence?
Yes,
Jerry Langley was the product manager for Lush Fertilizer, right?
correct.
And you can see that Exhibit 4 is an email from Jerry Langley dated September 18th, 2003.
Yes,
And you are listed here as one of the recipients on this email, correct?
yes.
Can you please read the second paragraph of this email out loud for the jury, starting with following our lab's June Drufo study?
Would you like me to read the entire paragraph?
Yes, please.
Following our lab's June Drufo study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic qualities identified in samples produced during a period early in the year. So we are reinitiating the study in coming weeks with fresh product samples. Development engineers and lab techs are also invited to participate in briefings by senior management on target market positions and economic strategies planned for Drufo as the study refresh proceeds.
Thank you, Ms. Doncourt. Are you familiar with the name Dr. Casey Rogers?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware that Dr. Casey Rogers has done a study on Drufo?
Yes, I'm aware.
And are you aware that Dr. Rogers and their study asserts that Drufo can cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Yes.
You once employed Carson Durst, correct?
Correct.
Was Carson's job to look for any dangers or risks so that you could follow up on them?
That was his job.
You turned over access to your email system.
Yes, and they found nothing in our systems.
If a single email suggesting that Lush was advised of possible risks from Drufo, would you have liked for someone to let you know?
Yes, that would have been their job.
Are you also aware that baking your fertilizer would remove any risk that it was carcinogenic?
Potentially, yes.
But Lush does not bake their fertilizer, correct?
We do not.
Is baking your fertilizer costly?
It is costly.
Expensive enough to be deemed too expensive for the little risk it alleviated?
Yes, it is too expensive.
And you say baking is simply overkill?
Yes.
Ms. Doncourt, can you please turn to Exhibit 8 in front of you? Is Exhibit 8 an amortization table showing your financial gains?
Yes, it is.
You created Exhibit 8 in 2004, correct?
Correct.
Is Exhibit 8 a fair and accurate representation of the amortization table you created in 2004?
Yes, it is.
At this time, Your Honor, I would like to admit Exhibit 8 as evidence.
Any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 8 is admitted.
Exhibit 8 depicts the amortization table from 2004 with the costs of baking your fertilizer, correct?
Correct.
And it showed you could increase your profits by 6% in the first year and an additional 2% per year thereafter if Lush did not bake their fertilizer.
Yes.
Did Lush need these earnings to pay the capitalists who provided your company with seed funds?
We did.
These investors demanded a good return on their investment, right?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes, these investors demanded a good return on their investment, right?
I believe so.
You didn't publish your financial findings either, did you?
No, we did not.
You were divorced, correct?
Yeah.
And a judge ordered you to pay. I'm sorry, was there an objection?
I believe there was. Go ahead and frame your objection for me. I didn't quite hear it.
Objection relevant for the divorce question.
Okay, response?
Your Honor, this testimony tends to prove that Ms. Doncourt was recently under financial stress and goes to proving a potential reason why Lush Fertilizer does not bake their fertilizer?
Any response from the defense?
Divorce shouldn't be that expensive, so I still don't see why this is relevant.
Okay, I will overrule the objection. A divorce can certainly put somebody in financial straits, so I'll let the plaintiffs explore that territory. So objections overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Doncourt, a judge ordered you to pay your former wife a large quantity of money, correct?
Yes,
But you need enough money to pay your employees to stay with the company.
I do.
You also needed money to pay your ex-wife,
Yes,
and baking your fertilizer was costly.
yes.
So Lush does not bake their fertilizer, even to this day.
No, we do not.
And there is no warning on the packaging regarding cancer specifically, right?
Right.
If there were to be,
Hold on. There was an objection?
Yes, objection asked and answered.
As to baking the Drufo?
No, as to if there was a warning. Opposing counsel asked this question at the very beginning of their cross.
Response?
I'm sorry, which question was this?
The one having to do with the warning on the packages of Lush Fertilizers products.
Was the question, and there is no warning on the packaging regarding cancer?
Yes, it was.
What? And I may be wrong. I thought the question was to this day. Meaning it still doesn't have a warning.
Your Honor, I believe that was in the previous question that says, so Lush does not bake their fertilizer even to this day.
Okay. Then I will sustain the objection as to asked and answered on the packaging not containing a warning on carcinogens.
Ms. Doncourt, if there were to be substantial evidence, would Lush Fertilizer bake their product or include a warning on the packaging regarding cancer specifically?
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly. If there were to be substantial evidence, would Lush Fertilizer bake their products or include a warning on the packaging regarding cancer?
Yes, we would.
Thank you, Ms. Doncourt. No further questions.
All right, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Doncourt, had you ever seen Dr. Rogers' study?
Only in the context of this case.
So while you were researching Drufo, you weren't presented with Dr. Rogers' study at all?
No, I was not aware of it.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Any recross, sorry.
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Then Ms. Doncourt can step down and the defense can call their next witness.
The defense calls Skylar Reese to the stand. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, stating your first name and spelling your last for the record?
Sure. My name is Skylar Weirs. Weirs spelled W-E-I-R-S.
Mr. Weirs, please tell the jury why you're here in court today.
I'm here on behalf of Lush Fertilizer, and because of my research I have done on Lush Fertilizer, fertilizers in general, and on Drufo specifically.
Are you acquainted with the plaintiff, Mr. Weirs?
Yes, I am. The plaintiff is my twin.
Relevance.
Your Honor, this
Yes.
question is relevant because it builds the state of the case itself. because, as previously mentioned, Dakota Weirs does have cancer, and it is an environmentally based cancer. I asked to include the facts that Mr. Skylar Weirs is Dakota Weirs' twin, just to form evidence for my claim.
The objection is overruled. He can answer how he knows the plaintiff.
All right. Like I said before, Dakota is my twin, and I've known them, you could say, since we were born.
Are you close to your twin, Mr. Weirs?
In the sense that we are family, yes. However, as friends or acquaintances, we've grown quite distant over the years, as Dakota's taken her path in life and I've taken mine, and haven't really crossed paths very much since now.
So why are you here in court testifying against your twin?
Like I said before, I am here on behalf of my reading up on lush and fertilizers in general. The research I have provided, researching the safety to lush, has brought me here.
You mentioned research. How does that play into your profession?
Plays into my profession because I'm an investigative journalist. I work for the nonprofit organization known as The Rationalist.
How long have you been working with The Rationalist?
Ever since I have graduated from high school, I've been working for them, so a couple years now.
Do you have a degree, Mr. Weirs?
No, I do not.
When writing, do you do your own research?
I read extensively over documentations, labs, and reports that are made by government organizations. These labs, I take the results from them as well as the facts I gain from these and use them to benefit and improve my thesis.
What sources do you use when researching?
Namely, sources such as the USDA, so U.S. Department of Agriculture, as well as the state departments as well.
Mr. Weirs, are these sources reputable?
Yes, of course, they're government organizations, so as such, they would be known to be reputable.
In your time with The Rationalist, have you written about fertilizer?
I have, yes.
What did you write about specifically?
I wrote discussing the history of these fertilizers, their developing safety over time, as well as on Lush specifically, and how Lush's product in Drufo has effectively changed the market of landscaping and fertilizers forever.
According to your research, how do fertilizers work?
Within fertilizers, in
Objection,
regular
say under Rule 801, it's a statement. The witness has not proven to be an expert nor know that much about.
Response from the defense?
Your Honor, my witness has done extensive research on this project, and he is not stating his own opinion. He is merely relaying the information that he has discovered.
Anything further from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
The objection is sustained. It sounds like he's trying to present expert witness testimony to me, and he has not been found to be an expert.
Mr. Weirs, you have May I take a second, Your Honor?
Yes. All right, everything went blank for me. Can you all hear me still? All right, perfect.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed when you're ready, Ms. Valdez.
Thank
Or,
you.
I'm sorry, Rodriguez or Valdez?
Valdez.
I had it right the first time. All right, you can proceed when you're ready, Ms. Valdez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rears, you said earlier you do not have any college degree, correct?
I do not.
And you are only 20 years old, yes or no?
Correct. I am 20 years old.
In your statement, you are also a part-time server at Applebee's.
Yes.
And when you are not serving at Applebee's, you work as an investigative journalist, correct?
I do. Correct.
You are not a trained scientist, yes or no?
I am not a scientist.
And you are not a trained doctor nor oncologist.
I am not a doctor nor oncologist.
And you are also not a trained statistician.
No, I am not.
Your knowledge of Drufo is derived from your research done for an article published in a rationalist magazine.
Yes. That's the name of the magazine company. Yes.
Your research included reading publications issued by various agritech companies.
Yes.
You don't state which agritech companies, though, nor which ones author these publications. Yes or no?
I do not know.
Objection, compound question.
My apologies, Your Honor. I'll move to the next question.
I'll sustain the objection and you can move on.
Your research also included reviewing the research studies referenced in agritech companies and of other agritech companies' publications.
Correct.
Your research also, my bad. Your research included tracking down a wealth of information maintained by United States Department of Agriculture and the National Association Departments of Agriculture.
Yes. Yes.
But you don't work for neither one of them, correct?
I do not.
Mr. Weirs, and you were not involved in the underlying research done to create wealth of information, correct?
Correct.
You claim that your knowledge base involves general knowledge plus historical and statistical information, correct?
Yes. Information I take from these.
And you, yes or no?
Yes.
And claim to have spent almost a year reading and researching regarding Drufo?
Yes.
Your Honor, under Rule 702, I object to Mr. Weirs being qualified as an expert in the field. Mr. Weirs does not have adequate knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education to be qualified as an expert. And if permitted to testify as an expert, his testimony will not assist the jury, but rather will confuse and mislead them. This witness knowledge, such as it is, will not assist again. Mr. Weirs has not provided an understandable explanation of his qualifications as required in the court's pretrial date ruling November 1st, 2021.
Okay, he wasn't offered as an expert witness, and I I granted your objection regarding to testimony that sounded like expert witness testimony to me. So your record stands, but he hasn't been offered as an expert.
My bad, Your Honor. I shall proceed. Mr. Weirs, you admit to being a gambler in your statement, correct?
That's a hobby of mine. So yes, I am a gambler.
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor,
Hold on 1 second. I didn't hear the question. I heard you admit to something, but I'm not sure what it was.
Mr. Weirs, you admit to being a gambler?
Oh, a gambler. Okay. So the objection is to relevance. What's your response?
This tends to prove financial bias as to why Mr. Weirs is testifying against his twin.
Okay. Any response from the defense?
Your Honor, I believe that this lawyer is trying to undermine my witnesses.
Okay. A potential motive, financial motive is could be relevant, so I will overrule the objection and let the plaintiff explore the issue. So you can answer that question, Mr. Weirs.
Very well. I am a gambler, yes. It's one of my hobbies and a pastime I have.
You are still in a hole from your bets you made a few years ago during March Madness, correct?
Yeah, I have some trouble with money, but I'm getting
Yes or
out of
no?
it.
Yes.
It doesn't affect me, so yes.
And your parents used to help you out financially before your mother died,
They did.
but now your father has cut you off.
Yes.
And you believe you are a beneficiary of your father's will?
I am his son, so I would suppose so.
Mr. Weirs, you are aware that your sister's medical bills are not going to be cheap, correct?
I am aware.
Do you believe your father will help pay for your sister's medical treatment?
I do.
All right. You write for the Rationalist, correct?
I do.
And you are paid to write articles for them. Yes or no?
I am, yes.
The Rationalist is a nonprofit organization devoted to promoting scientific skepticism and resisting the spread of pseudoscience, superstition, and irrational beliefs. Yes or no?
Yes.
You claim that lush fertilizer.
Objection, compound question.
Regarding what the rationalist promotes, is that okay? Response
Yes,
from
Your Honor.
response from the plaintiff.
My apologies, Your Honor. I'll just move to the next question.
Okay.
Mr. Weirs, you claim that lush fertilizer has been the target of pseudoscience or pseudoscientific mass hysteria and conspiracy theories.
I do.
You would never claim that there are no risks for modern agricultural products, correct?
Yes.
Virtually every commercial pesticide has several well-known carcinogens as nitrates, glyphosate, and arsenic, right?
Yeah. Glyphosate and arsenic, yes.
Pesticides and herbicides are, by definition, poison, correct?
Yes, they are.
And you claim that Truffaut is a pesticide.
It acts like one, so yes.
There's probably never going to be a chemical fertilizer that is truly safe then, correct?
Statistically, no. However, in real life cases, we see
Yes
that
or no? Yes or no?
yes, there's always a chance.
But you claim that there wouldn't.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
You said there's probably never going to be a chemical fertilizer that is truly safe.
Yes.
You and the plaintiff do not have the stereotypically close relationship, correct?
Not anymore, no.
But you want justice for your sister.
I would like her to recover from her
Yes or
condition.
no? You want justice for your sister.
Objection, badgering witness.
I'm going to sustain that objection as trying to define what justice is. I don't think it's fair to put him on the spot like that and then demand that he answer yes or no. So that is sustained.
All right. There are no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Weirs may step down and the defense can call their next witness. All right, do I have a defense witness? Looks like I have Ms.
All right,
Weideman.
I'm not sure if I'm able to hear.
I can hear you, I can see you, Ms. Weideman. Can you not hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, thank you. Okay. The defense calls Devin Williams to the stand. All right. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
And what is your current job?
I am the lead of the R&D department at Lush Fertilizer.
And which state do you work in?
I work in Colorado.
Dr. Williams, could you tell us a bit about your education?
Yes, I have anywhere from my undergraduate to my PhD in all fields of toxicology from CSU. I also have a post degree awards course in toxicology.
Dr. Williams, do you have your exhibit notebook in front of you?
Yes, I do.
I would now ask for the court and opposing counsel to direct your attention to what has previously been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 9. And Dr. Williams, could you also direct your attention to what has been previously marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 9? Do you recognize this report?
Yes, this is a copy of my curriculum vitae.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of your curriculum vitae?
One moment. Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of what has been previously marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Any objection from the plaintiff?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 9 is entered into evidence.
You mentioned working as a toxicologist. Would you explain what that entails?
Yes, so there's two main things in toxicology. The main thing is to understand the chemical composition.
Objection narrative.
A response?
Your Honor, I asked for my witness to explain what his job entails, and he was simply doing so.
Any response from the plaintiff?
I'm hearing him explain what toxicology is rather than talking about what his job entails.
Okay, objection is overruled. The plaintiff can answer, or I'm sorry, the witness can answer the question.
Yes, so it's two main things. The first is to see chemical compositions and understand key markers of those chemical compositions and see how they can affect certain things. Another main part is that I can see how those chemical compositions can affect the human body.
And how are you able to find this information?
Just through my education, my years at CSU.
Do you have any certifications?
Yes, I do. I've got many.
In what exactly?
All forms of toxicology, but mainly clinical and forensic toxicology.
Your Honor, I move to enter Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in toxicology.
Any objection from the plaintiff?
No objection.
Okay, Dr. Williams is thus qualified.
Dr. Williams, how does DRUFO work?
So DRUFO is the bonding agent inside of many of Lush's fertilizers. What it does is it allows for a more efficient fertilizer where the fertilizer can directly attach to the soil and to the plants that it's fertilizing.
And why is this important?
This is important because if, let's say, the fertilizer didn't have a good enough bonding rate, some of that fertilizer can just be left in the soil to be there. And over time, that can turn into clumps of nitrate. That nitrate through rain can be picked up from the farms and the fields and moved to anything like rivers or oceans.
Response?
Your Honor, this witness is an expert, and he is testifying to the importance of one of the chemicals that this case centers around. So I find it to be extremely relevant.
Any response from the plaintiff?
I don't see why talking about rain and environmental conditions is related to the lymphoma in the plaintiff's witness.
Right, I'll overrule the objection. He's giving a kind of a explanation about what Drufo is. That is the chemical that is at the center of this entire case. So I'll overrule the objection and let him answer that question.
So like I said, the rain will take those clumps of nitrates and move them from the farms and the fields to rivers, to seas, oceans, any large bodies of water. Yeah.
And can this cause problems?
Yes, it is a major problem causer for fish because fish are living in that water, and those nitrates can kill some of the oxygen, resulting in killing fish, as well as that same water is where beachgoers, sailors, fishermen are always a part of that.
Objection on relevance.
Okay, any response?
Yes, Your Honor, this specific line of questioning goes to how exactly Drufo and other fertilizers, specifically other fertilizers, can negatively affect humans, which again is what this case centers around.
And I'm all right with a kind of a brief description. I'll let him answer this question, but we're getting kind of far afield. So wrap up this portion because it's getting close to where I am going to start granting a relevance objection, but not yet. So objection is overruled.
Okay. So essentially just that water, it has problems in it and it can be harmful to beachgoers, sailors, and fishermen.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. In your professional opinion, does Drufo cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
No, it does not.
But is there any way to know for certain if users of Drufo will contract non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
No. This is because, I mean, if you take a sample group of people and see if they will have cancer, you're probably going to find one. That's just statistics. So you would need to directly compare Drufo to someone who has cancer, and that has not been done in the field of science yet.
Fantastic. Dr. Williams, did you happen to hear Casey Rogers' testimony today?
Yes, I did.
And you recall the study that was mentioned?
Yes.
What do you think of this study?
Well, it's a study that doesn't look at the right data set. The study looks at people who are always around fertilizers, people who are sometimes around fertilizers, and people who are not really around fertilizers or not at all. And the problem with that is like I said, it doesn't compare Drufo in that equation at all. It is comparing apples to oranges. It's not comparing apples to apples. The correct thing to do would be to compare fertilizers without Drufo and fertilizers with Drufo and see if there are any correlations.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Weideman. Any cross-examination, Ms. Glenn?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. You're an employee of the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
And you lead the toxicology research and development labs for the defendant, Lush Fertilizer?
Yes.
And you're the chair of the ethics committee at Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You started your career with Lush Fertilizer nearly a decade ago?
Yes.
And you've led the toxicology labs for 7 years?
Yes, I have.
Do you admit to having financial bias in the outcome of the case?
Yes, I do. But the main thing is that
I said it's supposed to be a yes or no answer question.
Yes.
Is it correct that when you joined Lush, around 50% of the original Drufo development team had already moved on to other ventures outside of the company?
Yes.
Your initial role with Lush was to fill in as a technician because due to the turnover with employees was beginning to impact testing timeliness.
Yes.
And Lush's CEO, Blake Doncourt, needed you to keep Drufo products industry leading, environmentally aware, and cost effective, correct?
Yes.
Is it also correct that Drufo is not only banned in France, but also the entirety of the European Union?
Yes, it is.
You could not have thought, I mean, you could have fought the European Union's decision to ban Drufo, but Lush Fertilizer did not fight it because it was just easier to manufacture a line of products without Drufo for sale in those.
Objection, compound question.
Response?
This is a really important part. I can try to rephrase the question.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
Thank you. You could have fought European Union's decision to ban Drufo, correct?
Yes, we could have at the time, but we were such a small company. It was a very high possibility that wasn't going to happen anyway.
So you decided it was easier to manufacture a line of products without Drufo for sales in those countries?
Well, it wasn't my decision, but the company made that decision.
Okay. However, Lush is working to receive a reconsideration of the approval from the EU, correct?
Yes.
And it is true that the outcome of this very lawsuit could impact the European Union's reconsideration?
Yes.
And if the outcome of this lawsuit is that Drufo causes cancer, that would create a whole host of new bureaucratic roadblocks with the European Union?
Yes, it would.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Glenn. Any redirect, Ms. Weideman?
No, Your Honor.
Very good. Dr. Williams can step down. I believe that's all the defense witnesses. Is there any further evidence from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Is there any rebuttal evidence from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then we can move into closing statements. We'll start with the prosecution. The plaintiff. Does the plaintiff wish to reserve any time for a rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much time do you want to reserve?
Whatever's remaining.
And frankly, I don't know. We'll connect with the timekeepers. Every once in a while, I'll see one of them pop up. I don't know if you guys all see that. So do you want me, like when I see a 3-minute sign, do you want me to pop in and say 3 minutes?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
All right. How much time is remaining? Ms. Shoes?
There is 9 minutes for the direct and 2 minutes for the cross.
Okay. And in terms of just closing statements at this point, how much time is remaining?
5 minutes for each.
5 minutes. Ms. Glenn, how much do you want to reserve for rebuttal?
The remaining time after my closing statement.
All right. And Ms. Adair, do you agree with the time stated by Ms. Shoes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. And Ms. Glenn, are you doing the close?
I am, Your Honor.
You may proceed when you're ready.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, we are here today to determine whether Lush Fertilizer is responsible and therefore liable for the plaintiff Dakota Weir's damage due to her non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Let me know. These are the words of Lush Fertilizer's CEO, Blake Doncourt. Drufo, a carcinogenic ingredient in their fertilizer. Let her know if there was a single email suggesting that Lush knew of the dangers of Drufo, a carcinogenic ingredient in their fertilizer. The evidence presented today has shown that several individuals let her know about the dangers of the product and that they also let her know that baking Drufo would alleviate the problem. Let's go through what you have heard today. First, you've heard from the plaintiff, Ms. Dakota Weir. Ms. Weir told you that she had been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma and how it has ruined her entire life and stolen her future. She told you how she had worked as a landscaper at age 14 using Lush Fertilizer. She told you how she discovered that the ingredient Drufo in Lush Fertilizer caused her very disease. She told you how there were no warnings on the labels. She also told you she has a twin who does not have the disease and that it is caused by environmental and not hereditary causes. Next, you heard from Carson Durst. Ms. Durst told you how she began working at Lush Fertilizer and was assigned to test the safety of Drufo. She told you that she had found a study concluding that Drufo was carcinogenic in rats. She explained how she documented the study and informed her supervisor, Jerry Langley. She let them know. She explained that they then did an in-house study and were told they needed to support the conclusion that management wanted. In the meeting to discuss their findings, a scientist expressed concerns that Drufo contained a carcinogen and was linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma. She let them know and was told to keep it within the walls. She told you how they discovered that baking Drufo would make it safe and let them know, but the baking process was expensive and never implemented. She told you how she started to performance reviews after she let them know of the dangers. She went directly to Blake Doncourt, and she dismissed her concerns. Finally, you heard from our last witness, Dr. Casey Rogers, who told you she had been researching harmful effects of chemicals for years. Dakota Weirs is not the only person who developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma after exposure to Drufo. She told you how her study found an increase in non-Hodgkin lymphoma in those participants who used Drufo. She made recommendations to reduce exposure and related risks. She let them know. After you heard from our witnesses, you heard from the defense's witnesses. Blake Doncourt told you she did know that baking the fertilizer would remove any risk that it was carcinogenic, but that the baking process was simply too expensive. In her own words, quote, "It was overkill." They let her know, and she did nothing. You also heard from Ms. Weirs' twin, Skylar Weirs, who claimed to be an expert. Do not believe his testimony. Skylar Weirs has shown to be unreliable and biased against his twin. Last, you heard from Dr. Devin Williams, who is biased because he works for Lush. He admitted he has a financial bias in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, we have shown today by the preponderance of the evidence that it is more likely than not that the use of Lush fertilizer containing Drufo caused Dakota Weirs' cancer. Let me remind you that to rule in favor of my client, you don't need to believe that Drufo is 100% the cause of her illness, but merely that there's only a 51% chance or greater that their product caused her illness. Today, we have proven all the elements needed to rule in favor of my client. 1, the defendant manufactured a product containing Drufo. 2, that the defendant failed to exercise reasonable care to persons who would be expected to use their product. And 3, that Dakota Weirs was one of the persons Lush should have been reasonably expected to use their product. And also that Ms. Weirs had damages caused by Lush's negligence. Let me know. That's exactly what happened in this case. Although Blake Doncourt and Lush Fertilizer were repeatedly made aware of the potential risks of Drufo in its unbaked form, they decided to prioritize profit over safety, which resulted in the harm to my client, Dakota Weirs. You must let them know by ruling that Lush Fertilizer is responsible for Ms. Weirs' damages. Thank you.
Sorry, I realized I was muted. Thank you, Ms. Glenn. Looks like you have about 30 seconds left of your time. We will now move to the defense with your closing statement. Is that Ms. Weideman that's going to do that?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Go ahead and proceed when you're ready.
Am I good to begin?
Yeah, and do you want me to interrupt and let you know how much time you have left?
Lush is not liable. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you are presented with a case of tragedy. A young woman was left with a debilitating disease that all but ruined her life. However, this must not be a case ruled by sympathy or emotion. You were asked to evaluate the involvement of Lush Fertilizer Company in Dakota Weirs' case, in which there was none. As the plaintiff has the burden of proving their claims by a preponderance of evidence, they had to prove all 4 of the following statements to be true. 1, that the defendant manufactured a fertilizer product containing a chemical known as Drufo. 2, that the plaintiff was a person that reasonably would be expected to use this product. 3, that the defendant was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk to people expected to use this product. And 4, that the plaintiff had damages that were caused by the defendant's negligence. The first claim is, by all accounts, true. Lush Fertilizer has never denied its usage of the chemical Drufo. The second statement is also true, but not in dispute. It is reasonable that Dakota Weirs would use this fertilizer. However, the third claim that Lush Fertilizer failed to exercise reasonable care in preventing unreasonable risk of harm was proven to be false based on the testimonies you heard today. Dakota Weirs has confirmed that there were safety recommendations on the Lush Fertilizer packaging, which were ignored. The proper studies were conducted and acted on. Dakota Weirs ignored these signs. The plaintiff failed to prove this claim true. The final claim, that the plaintiff had damages that were caused by the defendant's negligence, is also false. Lush Fertilizer did not neglect the safety of its users. Dr. Devin Williams, an expert in toxicology at Lush Fertilizer, has confirmed today that the risk of Drufo users developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma is no greater than any other fertilizer. There were safety recommendations on the package, and the supervisors of Ms. Weirs advised that those precautions be taken. However, tragically, Dakota Weirs did not listen. Now, while two of these claims are true, the plaintiff needed to prove all four. They failed at this. Along with the plaintiff's burden of proving his claim, the defendant has the burden of proving the affirmative defense by preponderance of evidence. As for jury instruction number 8, the defendant needed to prove the following two statements to be true. One, that the plaintiff failed to do something that reasonably careful people would do. And two, that the conduct by the plaintiff was a cause of his claimed injuries, damages, and losses. And we proved both statements to be true today. Dakota Weirs ignored the obvious safety recommendations of the packaging and directly disobeyed his employer's instructions. A reasonable person would take caution when dealing with intense chemical compounds such as Drufo, and yet Dakota Weirs did not. She refused to comply with these safety regulations, and tragically, her actions had dire consequences. Dakota Weirs failed to treat these chemicals in a reasonable manner, and her conduct is a direct cause of her claimed damages. If Drufo does cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma, the proper safety recommendations were advertised properly. Dakota Weirs should have treated these chemicals in a safer, more reasonable manner. Maybe she should have worn long pants or put on a mask. She did not need to feel the breeze on her face. When dealing with these intense chemicals, she should have just listened. But tragically, her negligence resulted in her own misery.
1 minute.
This case is undoubtedly a devastating one. A young woman's life was ripped from her, forcing her to search for a new purpose. However, you must not rule based on sympathy. You must not be swayed by the tragedy you saw unfold before you today. And when that sympathy is removed from the story, you will find that this was entirely avoidable. The defendant didn't just ignore things. They heard everything and nothing was ignored. Of course, the defendant's, our heart breaks for Ms. Weirs. We hope for nothing but the best for her.
15.
But at the end of the day, Lush is not liable. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Weideman. Ms. Glenn, did you wish to utilize any of your 30 seconds on rebuttal close?
Yes, please.
All right. You have 30 seconds.
Today, we have proven more than once that Lush Fertilizer is liable for Ms. Dakota Weirs, who at age 14 ignored recommendations that proposed a caution of mere eye irritation. But a CEO, Blake Doncourt, should have just listened, but instead ignored the research and is most definitely liable for Ms. Weirs' lymphoma. Thank you. That was all.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Glenn. That concludes the trial, and it's 3:50. I'm supposed to remind you at the end of the round that the next round is at 4 o'clock. I think folks are running a little late. I see Mr. Aero just popped up, so maybe he can give us an update on as to whether we have any time to give any feedback.
Absolutely. If you want to give a couple minutes, and if the scores, if you could submit those score sheets as soon as possible, and then give some feedback, and we will get the next round out as soon as possible. We may be waiting on one more courtroom, so we'll get them posted as quickly as possible, but there may be some delay. Just keep checking that website as frequently as possible.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and start with the feedback just to give our scorers a little bit more time to wrap up their score sheets. And I'll turn my video on in case you want to see me. I don't know that you want to, but there I am. You guys all did a really good job. This is hard. It's hard to do on the best of times, but when you're trying to do it with everybody in a different place and utilizing a bunch of different computers, well, as I kind of said earlier, you can see why a lot of judges in this jurisdiction anyway don't like utilizing a remote technology for evidentiary hearings, because you run into folks that don't have a good connection, and it's just as cumbersome to try and question witnesses and object. So you guys handled it really well. I need to apologize for not knowing the rules well enough. I wish I would have known before I started that I could have taken a recess and tried to fix the connection issues. So I do need to apologize to Switchgrass. I'm sorry about that. And then individually to Natalie Hauk, I tried to make a joke about me being old and you young whippersnappers should be able to deal with this. And I don't know how well that came across. Again, with video conferencing, it's hard to make jokes. And I'm somebody that likes to make jokes, and they just don't go over well sometimes. So, Ms. Hauk, I hope that you didn't take my attempt at levity as a critique, because it absolutely was not. I think you did a fantastic job, and I was trying to make a joke about an old guy, relatively old. I don't think I'm old, but compared to you, I am. A relatively old guy giving tech instructions to somebody who's light years ahead of me when it comes to tech stuff. So if you felt like I was coming down on you, I apologize for that. That was not my intent. I did not mean it as a critique at all. It was just me trying to make a joke, and sometimes that doesn't come across very well. Again, you all did a really good job. It's hard, we're supposed to judge these, the scores are supposed to judge on whether you're looking at notes and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of hard for me anyways to tell when you're on video, because anytime somebody makes a little noise, sometimes it switches to somebody else. With the Switchgrass team, we had to turn off the camera, so I had no idea, but you guys all seem to have worked really hard, and you know the material, and that came across. So good work to all of you. Again, I apologize for what I lent to the technical difficulties, and I wish you all luck in the upcoming rounds. So hopefully I burned enough time for our scores. I'll just go with the order that I had written you down, and I'll start with Mr. Trevino. Mr. Trevino, do you wish to give any feedback to our contestants?
Sure, Judge, and I would just echo some of your comments about doing this stuff over Zoom. I know as a prosecutor with Weld County, I did a lot of these hearings on Zoom, and Judge is absolutely right. It's difficult to kind of have those conversations. Body language, those kind of things are a little bit more difficult on Zoom, but you all did a great job. Definitely, I didn't hold any of that against you, the technical difficulties. The thing that came across to me was that you were all very prepared. You could tell each and every one of you put in sufficient preparation for this. You worked hard, you did a great job. And so I just think, continue this. If you guys have other rounds, I think that's kind of how this process works. You guys did an excellent job. So thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trevino. Mr. McAdams, any feedback from you?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I appreciate it. Everyone did a great job. I have some general comments and a few specific comments for specific participants. When it comes to openings and closings, I strongly recommend that you guys memorize those. It comes across much better when you have eye contact rather than looking down, reading from something. It's much better that way. I don't care if you memorize direct and cross. No one in the real world does, so I don't have a problem with that. But openings and closings, you need to. I did see at least once or twice people using notes when testifying as witnesses. Please don't do that. If this were in a courtroom, you would never get away with that. So please don't do that. I cross-examine for a living. I'm a defense attorney. I've been doing this for 21 years. When you cross-examine someone, you stick to certain words that start a question. And those words are who, what, or not who, what, where. Basically, that you do not say who, what, when, where, how, why. You state a fact and don't say correct, 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 correct. You're in the mock trial competition. You're testifying. You're a witness. You go to school. You're a high school student. Just make the statement, condition your witness to answer your questions, even though you don't do all that. And don't give them the chance to break out. Don't give up on objections. Way too many times, oh, I'll just let it go. Don't give up unless you really think you've lost. Ms. Gingras, just a personal one to you. You would get objected to if you read that exhibit in real life, where you were reading, I think it was exhibit 1. Be careful. You want to ask the witness, what does that say? What does that say? Don't say, follow along. I'm going to testify for everyone. Be careful. Be careful about them. Ms. Garcia, just a personal note, you did really well, but I want you to put something in your hair to keep it from going across your face. I got so distracted by you fixing your hair all the time. Okay, please do that. You all did really well. I want to give a shout out specifically to Ms. Gingras and Ms. Weidman. You guys were both the cream of the crop. I really, really enjoyed watching you guys. Thanks. That's all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McAdams. And Ms. Yoshimura, do you wish to give feedback? Oh, shoot. Ms. Yoshimura, I forgot. It seems like you were having difficulty being heard. Do you want to type something in and I can convey it to them? While I give her time to type, again, I just want to say good job well done, and good luck moving forward. I always enjoy doing this. I enjoy it a lot more when you actually get to be in the courtroom, and I imagine you guys do too. It's a lot more fun when you're just in the courtroom and everybody's here, and you get to kind of just feed off of each other. And I'm sorry you don't get that experience this year, but you guys did a tremendous job with this less than perfect medium. Ms. Yoshimura did indicate that she would just like to know, I would like them all to know, great job. I piggyback on all of your assessments. All right, so we're finished, I think. I don't think there was anything else I had to do. Oh, wait a minute. I think I do have to wait for Mr. Aero to pop back up and say that we're ready to, there he is. Are we ready to go?
We are done. We are all ready to go. We will calculate out the ballots at this point and we'll get them posted up as soon as possible. Obviously it's 4 p.m. right now, which is when the next round should start. So we'll have some delay as we do the math, but they should be up as soon as possible.
All right. Good work, everybody.
Great. Thank you.